Technical errors. We're live again.
We're live again. I don't know if anybody was watching the first. We had a great intro, as a matter of fact.
We jumped right into it. So
Got into
we'll
it.
do it again.
Oh no, not with that. So today, again, welcome to the Unwrap Love Show. Today we're going to be talking about something we don't see enough of: the messy middle. Right?
Yeah, that's a space where you're not who you used to be, but you're still not quite who you're becoming just yet. You're still kind of working on some things.
That's right. And this is the place where sometimes you hide things from others, right? When you're the potential, especially in the beginning of relationships. I think we've all done this.
Mhm. This may be this season of your life where you're healing, from something from your past, or could be that you're unlearning a bad habit. You're maybe growing into new areas. Maybe it's a New Year's resolution that you're trying to accomplish, and you might be wondering if you're allowed to be loved right here where you're at.
Yes, and somewhere along the way we're taught we could only receive love if we're already healed, right? Let's just say, for example, if we're confident enough, only if we, completely we're completely put together. We need to fix ourselves before we let someone in. So we perform strength. We hide our emotions. We perform the whole thing of I'm good. I'm good. I don't need this.
Yeah, I think a lot of people end up doing that, and they kind of put on that persona in the beginning that almost they're perfect. And so it's kind of like the first impression that you make on someone. But I think real intimacy doesn't happen when everything is super polished. It happens
I'm not polished. Trust me.
it happens when someone can see the real you, when you're tired, when you're confused, when you're still figuring out, still becoming, when you're still in progress of who you really are.
Yeah, and the thing is, like today, it's not about trauma dumping, right, or having it all together. Um, this is about the question.
What would love look like if we didn't have to pretend we were finished?
That's right. So if you're in the middle of healing, in the middle of growth, right, or in the middle of learning how to, you know, show honesty with who you really are, the flaws in all of it. Um,
You are right in the right place today. So let's unwrap this
Let's
together.
unwrap this. That's right. Let's unwrap this together as a group. So what is the messy middle? Um,
Is there anyone here that's ever felt like you needed to be more healed or more confident in who you are or more together before being loved? Did you ever feel that in your life?
yeah, all
Like
the time. That's kind of
you
been
weren't
my.
ready just yet?
I wasn't ready just yet. There have been times. Hello, Leanne. Thank you for stopping in. There have been times in my life where I questioned a lot of things about myself and whether or not, even on the path of understanding that I'm on a healing journey, there have been times where I felt like I'm missing something. I'm not whole. And there was and as much as I talk and as much as I'm on camera, there were still places where, you know, I wasn't confident enough. I talked about it last night. If you watch this on our live stream, I wasn't confident enough about my own writings. I wasn't confident about a lot of things. I know that I wasn't totally internally healed, and that's part of the journey. Is even as you start getting more self-aware in your own path of self-development and growth, that you know you are worthy of it. You are worthy of all the love and all the things that come into your life.
Yeah, and I think part of in our journey now, like before, in my past it was much different, but in our journey now, I knew that I was deserving of love because God loved me. And if I could find some kind of love where they didn't judge and they could see my messy middle, I
Say
said
that 5 times
messy.
fast. Say that five. She's inventing words. I'm rubbing off on her. Like I made one last night. Enjoyable. No,
and joyful.
enjoyful,
I
enjoyful,
remember.
that was my word. So now she's Missy Middle, what'd you say?
I said messy middle.
Missy Middle.
But yeah, in the messy middle of it, like a lot of times I think in my past I wanted to show someone my perfect self. I thought that's the reason why I'm not getting a date. That's the reason why nobody's asking me to marry them. That's the reason why, because I'm not perfect enough and I needed to be perfect. And so in my mid 20s, I thought, well, maybe it's because I'm too fat. So I need to lose weight. And I bought a diet plan. I lost all the weight. I worked super hard, got it all down, and thought, yeah, now people are gonna like me because I'm perfect. I'm thin, I'm beautiful, like I'm gonna get chosen. And it didn't happen.
Yeah, and a lot of us, a lot of us have learned to love through performance, right? This is what you this is essentially what you did. You went on the path of saying, "Let me perform an act,
Show them my best
show them
side.
my best side," right? Just not my presence, just being comfortable within my own skin. It was let me, lose the weight. Let me feel like I have the confidence now. Let me build all these things up only to get to that point and realize it never was that.
I think that's where sometimes a lot of arguments can happen, and people are like, "Well, you're not who you used to be when we first started dating because you were this way." And I think that's where people hide and they don't show everything in the beginning because they're scared of their messy middle. But that I think is where a lot of that true intimacy comes from, when you feel loved despite the flaws that you have. And I think that that was moving forward, one of the things that I've finally decided to give up. I'm never going to be perfect enough. I am who I am, and I'm in progress, and I'm still working on things, and but I'm not going to be perfect, but I'm not going to hide it either, and I will share the truth about everything. And so when I started dating again later on in life, I wasn't afraid to speak up about the things that were part of my messy middle. I wanted to be honest, and I think that's what really drew me to Gabe. Is that was some of our initial conversations were about the middle. We didn't start at the beginning super polished
Right.
and perfect. We fell for each other in those intimate moments of being honest and real with each other, and figuring out some of those flaws that were even hidden from ourselves because we were still growing and we were still learning, and we didn't even sometimes acknowledge the things that were going on. But when they came to the surface, we were able to work through those right away because we cared about each other no matter what. It didn't matter if we had some kind of messiness in the middle.
No, and the thing is, when you've come to from a place of, when you come up from a place of being a people pleaser, right? Some of us even become low maintenance as a survival skill, like because it's like I don't want to be noticed. We don't want to ask too much of others,
Mhm.
simply because our personalities are like if I don't cause too much of a ruckus or fray, this person will be
They're
accepting of me.
They'll still love
They'll
me. And yeah, and then and two, when you try to ask too much, it's like you feel guilty, like you're asking too much of the other person. And so I think some people do become low maintenance because they hold back, because maybe I won't be loved as much if I'm too needy. I don't want to be too needy.
Right. I mean, and you think like that's kind of like a child mindset, right? Um, or excuse me, not a child mindset. The opposite of a child mindset, where you want the attention, right? When you're young, you want that, but as you get older, you're like, you want to find yourself, and you hide in the shadows for some people.
Yeah, and I think that's it. Can a lot of that why we were performing that perfection comes from our childhood, because we are praised for whenever we do the right thing, whenever we say, thank you and have manners, and when we perform for our parents, it's almost like they love us more because we are easy to love because we're doing what they ask of us, and we're rewarded for that. And so I think that can carry into adulthood.
Yeah, and I was trying to pull up Bobby's comment there. Yeah, but we become quiet.
Yes, yes, very quiet and introverted.
Like,
Mhm.
you sit down and sit down in the corner and you become more of a spectator than a participant in life because uh, the when you start speaking up and start creating a voice, especially in terms of what we're talking about in a relationship. Um, if that is the personality that you've built and that's the personality that you enter in any kind of relationship or agreement with, then that's going to be the expectation. And the moment that you start becoming more, if you start saying more, you start becoming more vocal, um, it creates a shift. People,
Mhm.
they find it uncomfortable when somebody who, is like, you've never been this person. What's wrong
Mhm.
with you? They ask the question,
Mhm.
like literally, what's wrong with you? And they don't want that. They want to be they want the person that they met because we're rewarded for being easy to love, you know?
Yeah, I think as time goes on, if you don't address these issues in the messy middle in the beginning, then it becomes more of that challenge during the marriage. It's like, you're doing laundry and all of a sudden something comes up and you want to share it, or you want to finally open up about your emotions because you've been holding them back for so long and you've been suppressing them, and then all of a sudden you want to talk about it or bring something up, and then the other person doesn't understand because you haven't done that in years, and then all of a sudden now you want to work on it. But we're all like, we all experience growth at some point in our lives. It's just, sometimes we don't always show it, or allow somebody to see the inside of us initially, because we again feel like we have to be perfect in the beginning of relationships. And I think that's where a lot of people are like, oh, you've moved past, the honeymoon phase. The honeymoon phase is when you don't realize and you don't think about all of the middle stuff, because it's not brought up. We just want to be happy and discuss all that, the happy moments, and those, the middle ground doesn't really come up. And I think some of it can be even just fear that maybe you are a burden to that person, and so you want to seem like your best self, and so put on that show in the beginning.
Yeah. I've been in that position where I felt like I was a burden, right? So, you want y because of these sort of things that say have happened in a past relationship, right? You start understanding these patterns about yourself, and you start using trauma to minimize the things in your life, because you don't want to be the burden. You don't want to do so. You acquiesce to somebody who might be a little bit more, uh,
Lovable.
yeah, straightforward when they get into a relationship. If somebody comes in and like, this is who I am. This is what I want from a person, and you try to mold yourself to fit those needs. The moment
Mhm.
that you step out of any kind of normal characteristics that you've created, it's gonna be a sign for them. They're gonna be like, "Something's wrong with this person," or "What has changed?" or "What's going on?" Right? And you could have been the other person the whole time, but because when you came in, you built those sort of, uh, certain levels of expectations.
Or
W
just the facade
you
of who
you
you
know,
really are on the inside. You don't want them to exactly see who that is.
exactly, and it's kind of
Oh
what
yeah, it is difficult, like, to bring it up, and I think that's part of some of the conflict that people have in marriages, is they're bringing up later on, and it's all of the baggage they've been carrying on in their own mind, but they're just too afraid to reveal it in the beginning because, again, they want to be perfect. They want
right.
to seem like they don't have issues, because if you have too many issues in the beginning, they're not going to want to talk to you or date you or even marry you. And so people don't always bring it
Yeah,
up.
that's a good
Mhm.
point, Bobby.
Avoidance mindset.
You get the
Yeah.
avoidance mindset of like, if it's not there and I don't have to deal with it, then of course you move on from it. So, hold on. Sorry, darling. Let me pull this
So,
off the screen.
okay. So I think it's important, in the beginning of the relationship or at some point in the relationship, that you take the time to communicate and be vulnerable with your partner, because that's the person that you are supposed to, it's supposed to be your best friend. It's supposed to be the someone that you can confide in, the person that's going to love you unconditionally. And so there has to be a point where there is healthy
Melody,
vulnerability.
yeah. What is and ask yourself, question yourself, what is healthy vulnerability? You know, we can go ahead and cover, what it's not. It's not doing the first thing, and now that what I mentioned in the beginning opening of not trauma dumping on somebody, right? It's not uh, just unloading all the problems and stuff about yourself
Mhm.
onto somebody. And
'Cause it gives it I think it gives when you do that, the appearance that you need them to fix you, that you've got all these things and you need a savior. You need somebody to come to your rescue and save you because of all of the trauma that you've gone through, and some people do that. They just dump, 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 dump,
yeah,
way too fast.
way too fast. And there you go. I love that. You can't heal what
Feel
you're
too afraid
afraid
to
to
reveal.
reveal,
Yeah.
right? That's part of the just opening up and vulnerability, and of course, communication,
Connection,
compassion,
sincerity, and
honesty
honesty go
go a
on.
long way. Yes,
Absolutely.
nice to see you, my man. Appreciate you for
Mhm.
stopping in. But the next thing is just expecting that other person to be the fix all for you, right? They're the solution to your problem. Putting it all
Mm-mm.
on your partner to say, uh,
Fix me.
"Fix me," and yes, I agree with you 100%. I still do prefer that. We are in agreement on one thing, my man.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Dan. And yes, not trauma dumping on somebody. Yeah, I mean, it sounds kind of cruel,
Yeah.
but and Dan loves dumping, and I don't want to go down that path, but there we go. I did anyway. Um, but
Yeah, and then, I think too, like, oversharing early to fast track being close to that person. I think sometimes people do that even in relationships when they're finally ready to kinda open up, but they don't feel like their partner's ready to listen, so they find somebody to overshare with, and so that can lead down the wrong path, or even if you're single and then trying to be in a relationship and then just sharing, sharing, sharing so fast, like staying up all night long for hours and hours and hours and just sharing so much just to fast track a relationship is also not the healthiest way to be
yeah,
vulnerable with a
and
person.
there you go. Like Charlie says, you can't share big dreams with small-minded people. It you can't. But again, when you're talking about being totally vulnerable with the person, because I think vulnerability is the bridge that starts to help that starts to become the bridge to build foundational trust in a relationship. So
Mhm.
it is doing the things like naming your needs. That's being vulnerable. Like for example, when we met, it was, her needs are, and this was a big one. Most people would have probably run, but it was like, hey, I have a mental health diagnosis, and I need you to understand that. That's not trauma dumping. That's just being honest about
Mhm.
what her needs is, because it is going to be important, especially somewhere down the road, if you're going to want to spend time and be with this person and have an understanding that this is you know, something about me that's not going away, it's not going to change, and it's something that's important to pay attention to.
Mhm.
And I agree with this, Dan. I agree with your statement. Vulnerability doesn't guarantee
Oh,
understanding.
no. Believe me, I told that to several people, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, yeah, I knew somebody one time that had bipolar." And then I never heard from them again. Or I got blocked immediately. So just because you're vulnerable with someone doesn't mean that that's going to be end up being the person that you can trust or the person that you're going to spend any amount of time with. It takes time, but I think like if I were to have just given up and said, "You know what? I can't tell people I have this because they're just going to leave me or they're going to block me or they're not going to want to understand me." And if I had given up, I would have never met this amazing
Well,
handsome man
I,
right
I
here.
think Dan touched on something that we were about to just go in it there, but sharing without expectation of rescue,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Is not having that. You don't have that expectation that just
Mhm.
because I'm being vulnerable with this person, they're going to be
Yeah.
accepting of it. It,
Mm-mm.
it it's not always not always the thing that you're going to say that this brings us together. It's just you being open and showing what it is about you, and it's almost like understanding forgiveness. You give it without the fact of saying I have an expectation that you have to accept it and it has to be okay. It's
Mhm.
almost like a self thing for yourself. So being vulnerable, I feel at times is something one has to do for themselves if you want to have true understanding and growth. If you're going to allow that person into the messy part of your life, you have to. You have to let them see that side of you.
Yeah, one thing I don't always like sharing is I'm not okay, I was never taught to be organized. I was never taught to pick up after myself. It is such a struggle with me, and I don't always like sharing that part of my life with anybody. And at first, when Gabe was picking up after me or like putting things away, then I started to feel guilty. And a lot of it is because somebody said something to me, but I felt guilty that he was supporting me and helping me when it's something that I struggle with the organization. And, now it's like I've gotten used to like not putting leaving things behind because they always disappear and they're put up. So it feels weird leaving something out. So I've started to create better habits, but he's never like put me down or shamed me or made me intentionally ever try to make me feel guilty that he helps me out as a partner.
There you go.
It's support.
I like that. Bobby,
Mm,
vulnerability needs an empathetic listener. There you go. And somebody who's understanding of it. Um, Consider writing a book about, well,
yes.
speaking of Usama, that we are we are going down that path of,
Yeah, and that's why we really wanted to create this show and to jump into some of these topics and live through the experience of the dating world and then also marriage and all of that. And then creating these shows so that we can definitely write a book about the
yeah,
things that we've learned ourselves throughout this path.
because, a lot of the things that we've kind of gone through with our own experiences and the things that we're coming to understand while we're reading and doing a lot of the research, um, is kind of important information for anyone who wants to go down a path of getting a better understanding of relationships, not just love, but relationships in general, and
Hmm.
what that means. Because a lot of the things that we're talking about are principles that you can apply to a lot of facets of your life. It doesn't just have to deal with the love and the intimacy with a partner. If you're, for example, friendships, right? You can apply a lot of the things that we're talking about with friendships, with even in partnerships and business dealings. Um, that's just part of it for, what we're trying to build and eventually will become the foundation of our book. So yes, but we're before we go any further, let me just say hello to everybody who's joined us really quickly, but then we're going to jump into a fun part of the show. Usama, thank you so much again. John, Bobby, of course, Kenneth, Leanne, and of course Dan Roth. I love the comment. Gabe will be old enough to be a potential spouse on Golden Girls pretty soon. And yes, February is love month, so we're going to be
I
celebrating.
forgot Dan's a little younger than you, huh?
He is a little bit younger than me. Everybody's probably. Well, you're only as young as you feel, right? You're young in heart. All right,
Yeah.
guys, we're going to jump into something we hope that you guys will enjoy. It was fun for us to come up with a fun little game to be interactive with. So we're going to play a game called Unwrap the Flag. So let me just do.
Red flag, green flag, what will you snag? Hey! Twist it, flip it, unwrap the flag. Red means whoa, green means go. Unwrap the flag, let's play the game!
All right, here we go. This is Unwrap the Flag, folks. So s- it's very simple. We're going to pull up a few prompts on the screen, and your job as the audience here, and this is your job, not mine. This is your job as the audience, is to respond whether or not this is a green flag statement or if this is a red flag statement. Okay. And pretty simple in the chat, just drop a green flag or a green check mark, whichever one is easier to find if it is a green flag. Simple.
Yeah, and this is good to kinda look at it before you get into a relationship, like, if they have too many red flags or more green flags, but then even in the marriage, a red flag can indicate something that maybe you need to work on. Maybe it's something that you need to create a conversation about and have a discussion over it.
All right, so here we go with the first one. We're gonna read a couple that I've created, and then we're gonna read a little bit few off script. But here's the first one that I wanted to bring up with you guys, if I can. Um, the
And
tech,
the right one.
the right one. Here we go. Um, so is this a green flag or red flag, folks? They only want you when you're positive.
Red flag or
Is
green
that a
flag?
red flag or a green flag? That's the statement. They only want you
You're
when you're
positive.
positive. How do you feel about that one? We'll give them a little time to respond in the chat, but
I want to see what they say first.
you want to see what they say first? Well,
If anyone.
it's gonna take them a minute because LinkedIn is just slow.
Okay.
So I'm bantering here because I know how it works. But was that something that when we were first dating, was it something that you said, well, he only wants me, or have you ever had a relationship where they're like, they only want me when I'm this certain way, when I'm positive?
Well, I think especially in the first relationship we do, even though, we want to be honest with who we are, I think that we still, inside of us show our best side. And so, yeah, like I never wanted to show a negative side to myself because, it could be
Okay, we
a
got
red
some
flag.
responses here. Let's see what everybody here's saying. Let me pull up John's comment first, and his says major
Major
red
red
flag.
flag.
Bobby says red flag, and of course, Usama red flag. You guys are pretty
Okay.
spot on. All right, I like this.
Yeah.
Um, I need to bring more women into the conversation to see what their thoughts are. But there you go. That's those. And let's pull up our next statement here, which is this red flag or green flag, guys? They can hold space for you without trying to fix you. I think we got this.
So like they can, just let you speak without trying to um be the
Mansplain.
problem be the problem
The
solver.
problem solver, right? Just to honestly, listen to somebody. You
Yeah,
know,
is that a red flag or green
is that a
flag?
red flag or a green flag, right? Do they need? Do you feel like, hey,
Do
that
you feel like they have to try to figure out a solution for you?
right?
I think it depends on if a guy is answering this question or a girl. Guys be like, "Of course we have to
We
fix
have to
it."
fix it. We are fixers. I've done this. Look, I've walked down this path. I'm just being honest. At times I was performing the red flag duty here, right? I was like, you know what you should do? This is what you should do, right? And then, you know, and then, tell it whatever it is and not actually realizing that, hey, maybe they're not asking for you, to fix them or give them the solution.
Mhm.
Maybe they just want you to listen. So there you go. Bobby's like green flag. There you go. John,
Green flag.
you guys are getting high marks today. This is a good group of guys. I like you guys. You need to come around more often. All right. There's a reason probably, well, I haven't seen a Dan Roth comment yet, so I don't know what that means, but here we
He
go.
took off. He took
Yeah, he took off. He's like, you know what? I'm out on this one.
off.
So let's go to the next one. They're comfortable with your honesty, even when it's uncomfortable, right? Um, that was one I think that I felt when you sort of expressed to me that you did have bipolar disorder.
Mhm.
And, some people, again, you've had guys in the past and you've shared it on past episodes. They checked out the moment you told them, they
Mhm.
were uncomfortable with the honesty of like saying, hey, yes, I have bipolar. And, you know, not giving the ability to look past it,
Yeah.
seeing that there's probably an amazing woman on the other end. It's just like, I'm out, and yeah, that's a hard one. Or even just telling certain things about yourself that when it is, again, what we talked about a little bit earlier, expressing vulnerability is
Mhm.
when you're just being honest about something. Um, I've had conversations with people when they're being honest, like, hey, I was in jail whatever, for whatever, selling drugs or however you want it to be. Um, there you go. Men have to learn when to
Mhm.
fix and when to hold space.
Good point, Bobby.
There you go. I think we can start. No, what the heck was I getting- Without fixing. There you
Yeah.
go. So hopefully, oh my gosh, there's a woman.
Red flag.
Red flag.
So
Maybe it
which
was a
one's
prior
red?
one. Maybe it was a prior one. I hope. Or maybe maybe they're not comfortable with the
Green flag.
green flag. So all my men are saying green flag. I got a red flag. All right. Well, there you go. You want to read another one of the statements here, darling? And
Yeah, so here's the next one. We don't have it popped up on here, so we'll just say it. When a person says, "That's just how I am,"
oof.
is that a red flag
Is that a
or a green
green flag?
flag?
I can imagine that as I love my friend. I'm ribbing him a little bit, even though he's not commenting. But I love my friend Dan. That sounds like a statement like that's just the way I am. You know, you know I doubt. I'm just kidding.
Take that one down so they know we're not
Oh,
talking
we're not
about
talking
them.
about this one. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Hold on.
So when someone says, "That's just how I am," is
Okay.
that a red flag or a green flag?
Hold on. Let me pull that one down.
That's just how I am.
Okay.
A green flag.
Got a green flag. Yeah. Hey, and there's
Yeah, accept me or because there's the accept me. You can love me or hate me. I am who I am.
Bobby.
So is
Thank
that red or green? Red.
you.
Bobby says red.
Oh, the men are
Red
we're
flag.
getting opposites around here. Um, so and of course, Mr. Ego. Yeah, our Mr. Um, but yeah, that's to me again, it goes back to just when you're expressing who you are and being honest about yourself. Um, that I guess that term's kind of tricky.
Yeah, and sometimes it might depend on context as well because, if you've given all you can give and that's the person you are, and, maybe there's still potential for change, but not in the direction that the person is wanting you to go in, then that comment might be
I'm gonna
okay.
I'm gonna
But
read this one because I've had this experience. So they avoid defining the relationship. Is that a red flag or is that a green flag, guys?
they
Or
avoid they
ladies and
don't want
gentlemen,
the label.
they
They
don't
don't want
want
the
the
label.
label.
They avoid defining the relationship.
Yeah, right. I mean, I've shared it again, and I'll say it on previous episodes, which is a sign for you to go back and check out our YouTube channel, watch some of the past episodes. But I have said this in the past episode that I did date somebody who said I'm not ready to be someone's girlfriend. Right? They essentially just told me I'm not wanting to move forward with being exclusive. I don't want to move forward with you know, any idea of having a label put on what it is that we are. And I was somebody who was more, again, straightforward that I did want that. I did want it. And I was very clear about my intentions. So
His
hearing,
needs, and that's the thing, like, sharing your needs and being vulnerable, like, that was something that he told me from the beginning was that he asked me if I ever wanted to get married, and he knew what he wanted. He wanted to get married, and it stopped me for a second because I had already the idea that I wanted to be single and I didn't want to get married, but at the same time, like, I knew that if I had met the right person that then I would make that decision. And so that's what I told him. Like, I mean, it really was going to have to take the right person coming into my life before I decided to get married because I was not going to settle and I'd rather be happy by myself than be in a relationship that was full of drama. So I was like, it's going to have to be the right person. So thankfully, he ended up being the right person for me.
there you go. Say magic. Well, we'll see what they have to say when it comes to
So, what do you think? They avoid defining the relationship. Is that a green flag or a red flag? Did we get one answer
uh
down at the bottom? Did Bobby say
yes, he says red.
red?
No
No
clarity.
clarity. Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the thing about when you're talking about, uh, say, red flags and understanding things that are indicators that hey, this is probably not going to work out. Um, you know, they are there for a reason for like to tell you there should be a warning sign somewhere. And I think this is why it's important when we talk about red flags and green flags to kind of give a little bit of definition. I know some of them are a little bit iffy because there is context that has to play into the conversation, but for a lot of times it is pretty straightforward.
We had some other
Red flag. So John saying red, Leanne was saying red. So yeah, um, and again, say for example, you're hanging out with a person all the time, right? And you guys are, pretty close, and you haven't expressed that. Hey, this is a sort of a relationship sort of thing. Okay, that's the context, and fine. That's it. It's okay at that point to say, I don't know what this is. This is not a definition. We never came in with a straightforward approach of what it is that I wanted. But when you've sort of said that in the beginning of starting a potential relationship, or when you're dating someone and you're very honest about it, and they don't want to.
Yeah, that's when you have to determine whether or not your values align, because if they don't value the label or the same direction, then you're going to have issues in the relationship.
Because I promise you, you can go back to just about any of your failed relationships, whether they're business, whether they are, romantic, whether they're friendships, and you can go back and always look in hindsight. And I promise you, you'll find the red flags somewhere that happen. And you always tell yourself, again,
And here's one right here. We don't have that red flag, green flag screen on there, but they blame all their exes.
Red flag, green flag,
Oh,
what will you
wow.
say?
Wow.
They blame all their exes. Like I didn't know that that could be a red flag. Um, I I didn't know what kind of flag that was. I was just listening to the person that I was talking to talk, and I guess in a way they were trauma dumping on me and telling me all the terrible things, and the reason why they weren't with their ex anymore was because they had done this and they had cheated, and they didn't want to work, or they didn't, they complained all the time, and it was like a list of everything that they did wrong without, I guess, in a way, like, being upfront and honest about their own messy middle. Like, what is what is I mean, you're perfect and they're not, and I didn't see it as a red flag back then, but apparently, it is.
It is a red flag.
I mean, what do
Uh,
y'all think? Do you think it's
eh,
a green flag?
no, hope,
They blame all their exes
I hope,
on,
I
like,
hope, I
every
hope.
relationship that failed, it was their ex's
Yeah,
fault.
it's their fault. Of course, it's what's wrong with him, right? No,
Mhm.
there's somewhere along the line, and I think Bobby hit on it. You have to have accountability for yourself too,
Yeah, yeah.
because you are the one who put yourself in these patterns. Like we learned about this today. Sermon from the pastor was great. You reap what you sow, right? And it goes into that, right? If you reap what you put into it. So if it's always negative, 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 all the things that are bad, and of course it reaps all the bad things. All your relationships are always breaking down, something always wrong, right? And you're
What did you put into
what
it?
did you put into it?
Yeah.
But of course, that means you have to take accountability that hey, I made bad decisions, and these are the repercussions of my bad decisions. Instead, they just go, it's their fault
Mhm.
because that's the mechanism I need for me to be okay with myself right now. And people don't know how to look past that sometimes. It takes a lot. It takes a lot for you to say, "I'm at fault. I did this. I screwed up." Um,
And that's where, in that relationship, it can be mended if you're honest about, the things that you're not perfect at. Because we're not, none of us are perfect, and we're always going to be some kind of becoming of ourself or growing in some way. And it's, do you choose to grow with that partner? Are you on the same page where you can encourage each other? Not, it's not a competition. It's not, oh no, you went way far ahead of me and I'm way back here, and then being upset about it. Or, are you on the page where you can work on these issues together and grow together as a team? And I think that that's where it's okay to have this messy middle if you understand how to communicate along the way and be there for each other, supporting each other without making each other feel guilty or shaming them for the things that they're still working on or they're just not perfect at.
Well, thank you for joining us, Usama. Do appreciate it, my man. We will be doing this again Friday evening, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 Central. So if you want to join us, then you're more
Yeah,
than welcome to.
Friday at 8. Friday
Friday
at
8,
8.
yeah, 8
Central.
8 Central, 9 Eastern. So those on the East Coast, it might be a little later for them, but it's because we do have adult subjects that we want to talk about. So you know,
And we have children.
we have children, exactly. But that's part of allowing somebody, as we wrap up here, of allowing somebody to step into your sometimes messy world, right? It's like you again,
It's
you
about being honest.
it's about being honest and sometimes not having, I was told, listen, I was just told this. I was told myself, I was told you need to have all your stuff together before you get back into a relationship and go find love. And part of it was for me, like, I've been doing a lot to heal myself and I'm not 100% healed, but I think had I not started moving forward in that direction while I was still trying to heal, I never would have ran into Yvette.
Mhm.
I would have sat back on my heels and waited until I felt like I was perfectly fine to move forward. And I probably would have missed the opportunity of my lifetime.
Mhm.
And allowing her to see that I wasn't perfect in so many ways. And I've made the confession to her a lot of time. I'm not, I still make mistakes and I'm going to make mistakes in, as I progress and we progress in our marriage. Things aren't going to always be the 100% spick and span version of a marriage. We're going to have this part that just is mess and you have to sometimes learn to be okay with it. Even though I have a OCD thing about keeping things clean,
I love it.
there are times where I'm just like, fuck it. I'm
Like
not.
one of these days we're gonna have to hire a maid if we ever have the money for it to like, so he can take a break. But he's so good at it.
Yeah. And there are times where I said, again, you just have to things, you just have to let things exist and function. You
Mhm.
can just let it go sometimes. I just know that sometimes for me, I get to a certain point where I say I can't do it anymore. I need to start getting back into gear. But there are times where, hey, look, stuff's on the floor. I'm just gonna leave it there for now.
It's
It's
nice.
nice to sometimes
Take a
okay,
break.
exactly. So um, we will again have more of
Yeah.
these discussions. We're working
We
on.
really appreciate those of you that stayed in and got involved. And I don't know who Bobby is, but like you had some really good things to say, and so did some of the other people that were in here. I think it was John and Usama. Um,
Yes.
yeah, you guys had some great ideas and feedback to add to the conversation. So we really do appreciate you guys, and hopefully you can tune in again. We will be coming back with other topics. We are in season 2 right now. This is our second episode, and you can find us on YouTube. So we have a YouTube
Yes.
channel that's at Unwrap Love.
Unwrap Love on YouTube. You want to
Mm-hmm.
kind of read that, or you want to go down to the
To
part?
which part?
Um,
Um,
we're
okay, right here. Yeah.
yeah, our closing reflection here. Real quick.
Yeah. So
Close it out.
as we close tonight, this evening or
This
afternoon or
afternoon.
whatever time zone you're in,
Yeah.
we want to remind you of this. You don't have to arrive to be worthy of love. You don't have to be finished or fearless to be fully healed and to be accepted in love. Someone will love you regardless of the messiness that we hold. The messy middle isn't something to hide from anyone else. It can cause problems in relationships. So the messy middle is where your courage is, where your courage lives. It's where honesty begins. It's where real love actually has room to grow. If you're learning, you want to
How to
read?
ask instead of withdraw. If you're practicing honesty instead of perfection. If you're showing up even when you don't feel ready, that matters. That matters. Love doesn't require a polished version of you. It requires your presence, your truth, and your willingness to be seen.
So, wherever you are in your becoming of who you are, don't rush it. Don't perform in front of others. Don't disqualify yourself from love because you're still learning.
That's right. I missed. Oh,
You're not
you're not
behind.
behind. You're not broken. You're in the middle, and that's a beautiful place to be.
Thank you for unwrapping this with us
Us this afternoon.
tonight.
This afternoon.
Yes, this afternoon.
Well, it is evening for some of the folks here.
Until
Uh,
next time, keep choosing honesty over perfection.
Perfection, and we'll keep unwrapping love one layer
Layer
at a
at a
time.
time.
So, thank you again, and I will be sending out invites to a lot of the people who were here this evening for
Mhm.
our Friday show. And again, I will be sending out a lot more information when it comes to. Oh, I'm sorry. Before I even step off, one more thing. We had a poll. The poll will be up for 3 days. It was
Mhm.
about what we were talking about this afternoon. I didn't
Yeah.
get a chance to pull up the results from the poll.
We'll pull it up on
We'll
Friday.
pull it up on Friday,
Yeah.
but you still have time to go vote because it does have to deal with what we were talking about in this afternoon's discussion.
Yes.
So go check it
And
out.
we'll connect and follow. Thank you, Bobby.
Yes. So we do appreciate it. You guys are awesome. And anything else, Charlie?
I love you.
I love you. Okay, you're gonna have to see this, and if this grosses you out, I'm sorry. Just turn your heads now. I'm giving you pre-warning. That would have been awesome. That one would happen. So, all right. Until we get the outro, and I'm gonna work on an outro this weekend or this week.
Yeah, we have one, but we'll do another
Now we'll
one.
do another one. And this one will be a little bit